Welcome to Unfiltered and Uncompromising. My name is Luisa Hogan, and I am so excited to be joined by some incredible panelists here today. But before I introduce them and myself, I wanted to let you know what you are in for today. It's a real treat because this conversation is a discussion with four incredible women who are going to have a candid, unsanitized conversation about identity, expectation, and choice. Now, I'll warn you, this is not a conversation about empowerment as a slogan or authenticity as a performance. It's a grounded exploration about what it means to live and work without constantly shrinking, without constantly editing yourself or over explaining yourself to meet the expectations placed on you. And so we're going to open up the space around the unspoken rules that we absorb about who we are allowed to be, how expectations quietly shape behavior and ambition and self-trust, and the personal cost of self-censorship and people pleasing. Now, we are not going to be offering you a how-to list or endless advice or teach you performance as confidence. We are going to give you a taste of the journeys that we've been on to be unfiltered and uncompromising so that you can walk away from this discussion today feeling inspired and ready to take on the challenge yourself. So a little bit about me. I am a leadership resilience strategist, and I help leaders move from self-trust to self-doubt. From self-doubt to self-trust, I beg your pardon. And I do that by teaching resilience strategies that actually last. And I am on a personal mission to change what people believe resilience means. And it's not about endurance. And I can't wait to delve into that today as part of this conversation. And I'm going to hand over to the panelists because they are, as I said, incredible women. And I'm going to start with Angel. I want you to tell us, Angel, who you are, the work you do, and in one sentence, what draws you to this conversation today.
Thank you so much, Lou. I'm Angel Dash. I'm a flame keeper and sacred brand alchemist. I help women stop performing confidence and start building brands that feel like truth. I spent years building success in ways that looked powerful but felt constricting. I hid parts of myself, my disability, my grief, my spirituality, and because I thought credibility required the editing, I had hid everything about it. I'm here because I know what it costs to live inside a cage. I know that once you outgrow it, things start to expand for you. So the one sentence that you had asked for, what draws me to this conversation? I want others to know that that cage that they are in, they can break free at any time. All they have to do is look within, trust their self, and move forward.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Angel. Angel Dash, Flamekeeper and Sacred Brand Alchemist. I'm so happy to have you here. Leisa, tell us a little bit about you and what you do in one sentence. What draws you to this conversation?
In one sentence.
Is that possible?
That's not much for me, right? I am a wealth and embodiment mentor. I love to play in the higher dimensional fields, and I really help women to be able to hold what they want. I think that's pretty much of it in a nutshell. I deal a lot with identity, with self-beliefs, with really allowing themselves to expand so they don't contract when things start really moving towards them. Basically, I help people get out of their own way, which is what I had to do. I think the one thing for me is that brought me to this conversation is the cage wasn't bad. The cage protected me until I was strong enough not to need it. And I think that is the secret sauce, the medicine, whatever you want to call it. When you don't need it, then you can start expanding and growing once you realize it, which took me 45 years, but I'm here.
I mean, and now it doesn't have to take us 45 years to go through that journey because you're here to share your wisdom. Amazing. Thank you. And Angelina, I love you, girl. So tell us a little bit about you. What do you do? What brings you to this conversation?
Thank you so much. So for me, I consider myself the global human value disruptor and performance activator. Bit of a mouthful, but what I have done is spent my whole career in high risk, high pressure, male dominated environments really stepping into that concept of being put in a cage and, actually adapting as we do as human beings to survive in a way where my adaptations really pulled me away from my own alignment. And so through my journey, I found actually the models that actually disrupt performance from the inside out so that organizations and the people within it can actually thrive and be in environments where they enjoy what they do. Working in high risk environments is very challenging. I won't deny that, right? We tend to be in environments that are quite isolated. Doing shift work or things that really put you in environments that are very taxing can be very demanding. And so as human beings, we give a lot of ourselves to our career, to our environments. And so this conversation excites me because for many years in my career, I believed I had a false belief that the cage is also what keeps you safe. But truly, there is a component of that, but it also has a lot of limitations to it. And so one thing that I find and what I'm disrupting is a belief system that if we do not expand this concept of this cage, we are in a rinse repeat cycle. And sometimes this rinse repeat cycle can keep us stuck instead of actually evolving as we should be as human beings and as organizations and performance leaders in ways that is more aligned with our true self. So I'm so excited to be having these conversations with you, amazing women, and really giving people an opportunity to see things differently. Because if we can expand that perception and that belief, wow, we are all unstoppable.
100%. Oh, I love that. And you know what I love about all of us is that we each are so different. We all work in completely different spaces, but we so relate to one another in so many ways. And I think in one of the ways that we relate is that we all took on a little bit of an unspoken rule that we absorbed early without anyone ever saying, this is the rule. We just absorbed it. And I think this is what drew us all to this conversation, is that there's this commonality between all of us. And I wanted to explore that today. So that's the first question, to all of you. What was the unspoken rule that you absorbed early that kept you in the cage? Some of you have touched on it a little bit, but I want to delve into that deeper. So who wants to go first?
I'll pop in.
Oh yeah, go Angel. Nice.
I'll pop.
Yeah.
The unspoken rule that I adopted early on was don't disrupt the room. And it was better to be seen, not heard. It was better to sit there quietly. It was better to be this perfect version or have this perfect outlook to everyone else when I was younger. And I think that as I grew from that, that's where the unspoken rule became wait, do I need to keep this? Is this something I need to keep in my life for me? So I definitely don't disrupt the room has been a big one for me that I have worked on.
Yeah. I completely relate with that as well. It's like, don't disrupt the room, but also, from how I related in my world it has totally been in leadership, in executive roles, is be the person who has to be strong so that nobody sees the real you and the authentic you, which may be going through some really tough times and hard stuff, but you can't show that to anybody. And that was my own don't disrupt the room. You have to be the one that's in control and on top of it all the time. And so many people in leadership and that I work with absorb that too. So it's kind of the same, but not the same. It's don't disrupt, but by showing that you are the person who's holding it all together, What about you, Leisa?
I thought you were going to say Angelina then, because she was...
Oh, good.
She put her hand up.
Nice.
I was like just endorphed in what you guys were saying. For me, it was a little bit different. My rule was more of a safety. Mine was more of a survival. Mine was more of just be quiet so you don't get seen, because every time I'd put my head up, I would basically nearly be chopped off, whether it was when I was younger, the sexual abuse by 3 different men, or whether it was when I was really young and my mum had to raise us, and she was working 3 jobs, really tired, and she'd go into a place where she just couldn't give to anybody else. And so I'd be singing and laughing, and I'd get told, oh, would you just shut up? Would you just shut up? Just give me a break. And so I learned that to be quiet, to be small, and to not be seen was safety. So I built my cages from real survival of being able to fit in and not to, it's a little bit like disrupt, but not tip the scales that you were being seen, being front and center, because what would happen is I'd basically, you'd get a smack in the head. So, when we're little, we just want to fit in. We want to belong. We want to make sure that these big people love us because they give everything to us so that we can survive. And so I started molding myself into someone that I wasn't, because I've got a big personality and I've got big energy. And I always say to my mum now, yeah, I was little Miss Know-It-All because I know things, all right? I'm a clairvoyant. I see it. So we always have a laugh now about what it was. But, she was doing the best she could, and I was contracting to fit in, to not be seen, to be safe.
Wild.
That's really powerful, Lisa. And I'd love to ask you, because that's so much insight, right? And I tend to find that, especially the experience that I've had and in many work environments, not many people have that realization like you did in terms of these big events that occurred in your life. And especially for a lot of us, it's at a young age. We have these events that really shape how we then react and respond in our life, right? I have been in work environments and someone has just said a very polite, "Hi, how are you?" And someone's just gone off because that was a memory, an energetic connection to a traumatic event when they were younger. What moment did you have that insight where you made those connections, referring back to your lived experience or your childhood, where you realized you adapted, or that mannerism that you then tended to form into? I would love to know more about that.
Yeah, great question. So for me, it wasn't one big thing that happened that I went, oh, wow, this is what I've been doing. It was really a series of events. And the thing that really tipped it off was my plant medicine journeys, when I saw, by letting go of my subconscious mind, that this is how it happened. But I could take myself back to when I was about 13, and I realized that it was okay for me to be big. It was okay for me to really allow myself to be seen. I was really good at netball, and I ended up on stage and all that sort of stuff. And I realized that if I did start putting my head out, then I was actually going to be okay. So there was little events that happened throughout my time that actually allowed me to remove. People call them masks. I reckon they're cages. I really do. Like, yeah, we become somebody else. And I started realizing it was okay to be me. And it was okay for me not to be living in all these different, it's like a freaking movie, I was playing this for this person. I was this cast member for this person. I was this, but I was always the second role. And when I started realizing that it was time to put myself first by wanting and knowing that my needs mattered, then things just started to tick really gently, really slowly. And I just started to become who I was always born to be, instead of being who everybody needed me to be.
I love that.
Pleasing was a big one.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I can relate. And it can be very exhausting though, can't it? When you talk about not only the masks or the cages and always giving, and I always say it's kind of like, especially those of us who tend to support a lot of people who are in the space of motivating, supporting others, we tend to really play that second role. We don't take the main character very often. But wow, when we do, that ripple effect for us to actually support more people just 10x's really in a way, doesn't it?
Yeah. I think Angel's got a similar story, haven't you, Angel, when you were in the army?
I have a lot of stories from the army.
I love your stories from the army.
No,
I
can always lean in when you start talking about it. Tell me more. I don't know if that's a crazy thing, but I'm like, yes, I want to know all the tea.
So before I get into that, I also noticed that, Angelina, you didn't talk about your unspoken rule. You started, then we were talking a little bit more about Lisa's, and Lisa, wonderful story, and thank you so much for sharing that. But Angelina, I do want to ask, like, what was your unspoken rule that you had, that you first gathered when you were young, little, or something that you realized wasn't yours?
Yeah, I appreciate that. For me, it's an interesting one, and I'm going to lean in on the female narrative for this one because I was brought up in a very traditional cultural family where, my grandparents and all the generations of women before me got married off very young. And there was this story that every woman gets married, has children, is the stay at home wife, which is an amazing role. But that never really resonated for me. But yet, that was the story and the narrative that was given to me since I was a child. It's what I saw around me, it's what many women also emulated. And even when I stepped then into a male dominated industry as well, that narrative kind of continued. It was, if you're a woman, your role is this. You're either an administrator or your position isn't, one where you can take more of an authoritative role. And yet me being that disruptor, that little kind of monster inside me was like, oh, hell no. I believe that we are all put here, and it's not about man versus women. We complement each other. And I believe in the value of us having diversity of people with different experiences, different expertise, different views, different beliefs, because that's where true, growth occurs. And so I found myself really sometimes in a battle between two worlds. What everyone's told you should do, but didn't really feel right for me. And it comes back to my point of alignment, right? Where our survival patterns are to adapt, to survive, to do what we believe is the right narrative or the path that we're all meant to follow. But I truly believe within myself that wasn't, and it hasn't been my path. So it was a bit of a journey internally, to be honest, and socially, to be like, yeah, that's not for me. I think I might tap on that door and say to all those men, hey, I need a seat at that table. How do I disrupt more in this type of environment? So it was definitely having those conversations of very deeply rooted belief systems of what a woman's role is in society, in culture, in the narrative of where a woman and a man sit in organizations, and really reshaping that from a place of my truth. So yeah, it's been an interesting journey, but a fun one.
I was like,
hop
I'm
in,
gonna chime in. I was like, let me hop in, only to go back to, since we like to hear the Army stories, it piggybacks off of actually what Angelina was talking about being in more of a male dominated role, right? So when I was in the military, I joined when I was 17. I signed my contract while I was still in high school. And I left shortly after I had graduated, went into basic training. And then after that, went into AIT, which is the Advanced Individual Training, for those that don't know. And that's your specific job. So I chose, with the fact that, thank goodness I'm smart, but I chose medic, and I chose that I wanted to help people with medical in that way. And so being a medic would be equivalent to like an ER EMT. And when I chose that, after AIT, I get to my first duty station. And as I'm signing in, they tell me, oh, you're going to deploy within 45 days. And I'm like, oh shit. I'm 19 years old. I have no idea about anything. This is the first time that I've technically been outside of my own city by myself. So I'm a woman. I'm a young woman. I'm technically still a kid, still trying to figure out who the heck I am, what the heck I'm doing in this world. And that's when I decide, you know what, we're just going for it. So I get to Afghanistan, that was a journey in itself. But as a female medic, part of 10th Mountain, part of a mostly male team, there was a lot of uneasiness trying to figure out, okay, well, we're going to mess with her. We're going to try to figure out, where the boundaries are. Right. And so I remember one of them coming up to me, and he comes up to me and he tells me, hey doc, I got this itch. And I was like, oh, okay. Where is said itch? And of course he points to his genital area, and I'm like, all right, well, drop trowel and let me take a look. Like, I didn't even skip a beat because my job was medical. My job is, I'm here to take care of you. I don't care what kind of anatomy you have. I'm going to take care of you. Right. So I'm just like, okay, we'll do it. And he just stopped. He froze. And he was just so scared because he was like, wait, what? And I'm like, yeah, no, you want me to look at it, right? Like I'll look at it and I'll give you a prescription of what you need to be doing. And he's like, no, it was just a mess. I was just messing with you. It didn't happen. And ever since then, like I wasn't messed with after that because they were like, oh, so being in that male dominated scenario and being in a mostly male dominated area, that can be hard to navigate, especially as a young woman, not knowing what to do. And so the matter of standing on your own 2 feet and standing strong is something that I had to call in all my ancestors for, because I'm like, I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
So,
but isn't that so freeing? Like when you found that moment, and that was the moment that you broke free of that cage yourself, right? And then I'm sure after that, it became easier to continue to do, because like it's when you make that conscious decision to break out of that cage, to drop that mask, whatever it is that you want to call it, it's really freeing, and I'm sure each of you have a story of when you decided to make that choice, of when you decided to drop that. I mean, for me personally, like I had been through lots of, executive leadership roles where, and from a young age, like from a very young age, I decided I wanted to be a CEO. That was the goal. And looking back, I think what a ridiculous goal, because I am so not that person anymore. But that was my goal. I wanted to be a CEO by the time I'm 30. That was my goal. And I worked really hard for that. And then the whole time I had this image in my mind from mentors who had told me, from people who had told me, from childhood sport, what leadership was, And we went through this journey of, putting on my own cage and mask of what that looked like. And I remember I did make it to CEO role by the time I was 30. In fact, I was in my second CEO role by the time I was 32. Which, amazing. Please don't applaud me, because looking back, I'm like, again, like that's a goal that I wouldn't choose again.
Still an achievement.
Hashtag burnout. Let's do it.
Hashtag, no, I didn't burn out, but it was interesting because
set a goal and you smashed it.
Yeah, I smashed the goal. But, it's funny because it took me that second time to go through an experience that was really, really challenging, where I realized I don't have to be that person. And then it was a real choice at that time to not be that person anymore. And I found such incredible peace and calm and clarity in that moment. And it's like when you break out of that cage, right? It's like, oh, so that's what it's like, right? So I can imagine, like, listening to your story, like that was your moment, Angel. I had my moment of, oh, okay, and this is what leadership actually is. This is what that feels like. This feels fantastic. I should have done that sooner, So, yeah, I'm sure all of you can relate to that. Like, did you have those moments too, where you just had that moment where you decided to break free and that felt so freeing? Or was it staged? Was it progressive for you?
I think for me, and it's an interesting one, because you all just said it perfectly, right? You don't necessarily get a handbook for aligned leadership. Really, right? We're so different as human beings, our lived experiences, our personalities. And what I find is a lot of people give you a bit of generic guidance as well, right? And what I found is, as I took more senior roles, the advice was like, yeah, be more masculine, be more assertive, be aggressive in the room, all of these things. And I tended to follow that narrative, right? Because in many cases, I was one to only another woman in a room, actually having conversations. And so a thing that I found was interesting was to actually go on a journey where I had to peel back these layers that I actually formed around what I had become, to escalate, to go into more senior roles that didn't actually genuinely feel aligned to me. Yes, it got me to certain positions, but then I realized I was actually playing by someone else's rule book. And so exactly like you said, Lou, right? It's, you get to these moments and it's, does this feel aligned with who I am and how I want to lead? And it's interesting because many people will say to me, wow, Angelina, you are different. How do you, go into these environments, whether it's an underground mine site or you're working on a drill rig, and you have these honest, human connected conversations? Because as in business, many people tell you it's about just get the job done. it's about the processes. You remove that human connection. Whereas my fundamental belief and passion is around really ensuring that that human value is at the heart of everything. The conversations, the processes we build, the way that we create, empower people. So I think an interesting part of my journey when I even then stepped out to start my own company was pulling back the layers that I didn't even realize I had put on myself. How do you become a consultant? How do you sit as a manager? How do you speak? All of these things that were, very regimented in a way because it was to play by another rule book and not necessarily what resonated with me.
Mm. What about you, Leisa? I mean, I know that, I tend to talk corporate, and I love your perspectives because you give me a totally different perspective in this world, and I just love hearing what you have to say. And I feel like that's the journey that I'm on, is finding myself more spiritually, and that's why I love talking to you. But, what was that process for you?
Yeah, so that process was really uncomfortable. It was a really uncomfortable space of allowing so many facets and so many fragments of who I actually was to come back into my body. Because when we start, and it's like when you go into a house and you look at all the doors, and when you're scared, you're like, oh no, I'm not gonna do that. No, and a new belief gets formed. So you close that door. No, that's scary. I don't want to do that. And then, there's another one, and you close the door and you don't want to see it. So when I started going into what I called was my inner world, which is my house, my foundations, and I started peeking and taking absolutely radical responsibility for everything that wasn't in my life and everything that was. And that was really scary. Like, it was really scary. And I got really honest with myself, and I decided to take a step back and get super, super curious with my world. And when I started welcoming in my spiritual side, it was like, I don't know how many dark nights of the soul I had as I started to find out who I was. It was what I call like a homecoming. It was a homecoming to myself. And what I realized is that when I actually let go of the outcome and I allowed myself just to be in this present moment, not thinking about the future, because the minute I started thinking about the future, I would go into a pattern or a belief or something that I had created to keep me safe. And so when I went back, well, same sort of thing, but in the front was fear. I kept going into fear. Oh no, I can't do that. And I was living in Angelina mentioned it, like, oh, how am I going to do that? Oh, but you start getting all these different friggin' things that start coming out, which is just your subconscious and your ego going crazy. So when you eliminate the noise, you take radical responsibility, you decide you're actually going to get out of the way of your own shit, because that's what you've basically built, even with survival. And you allow yourself to be in that present moment of doing exactly and feeling what feels good, and allowing yourself to see the threads and the fragments of you, who you actually are in your inner world, that you have let go to people please, to make sure somebody else was safe, to fit in, to not to disrupt, to make sure that, that everything was okay. And your nervous system, which I call the tree of life, when it starts to breathe, every time that you break a cycle or do a pattern or take yourself out of there's so many cages we've put ourselves in, then your tree of life just starts to sparkle and shine, and you create so much space to cool stuff in. But I think spirituality is something that we're not taught, and it's not that you need to go full blown woo woo. When I first started, this was like 15 years ago, and everyone's like, "Oh, that's that strange woo woo chick." Now they're like loving it because everybody's realizing it's a part of us. It's a fragment we let go. It's a part of who we are. It's got so many tiers and so many threads to it that I could just go into. But I think for me, it was taking radical responsibility and deciding, you know what? This is not where I'm supposed to be. This is not who I am. I want to go and find out where I'm actually supposed to be. And it went from living, from surviving to thriving, from allowing myself to have those little things that I've always wanted, that I always got told, oh no, they're not for us, and it's dangerous to have money, and it's dangerous to this. So it was breaking free of those patterns, and it's not easy. Anyone says, oh yeah, it's great, and when you get there and hallelujah, I'm here, what a crock of shit. You still go into dark nights, you still go into,
and you're still grieving. We talked about this the other day, didn't we, Lisa? You grieve and like you think you've got to a place where you're happy and then you've got to let go of some more and then you grieve. There's grief and fear. And it's like it's this up and down. I was only talking to you last week about the grief that I was having about letting go
So
of
beautiful.
someone that I was and that I am becoming. And I just know that there's going to be grief again in the future because you do. It's a constant process of letting go of the fear, letting go, because it is scary to step out of the
Yes.
cage, right?
And the cage grows and it gets bigger and you
Yes.
can breathe more and your cage
Yeah.
doesn't keep you confined and
Yeah.
you're like,
Yeah.
here I am, which is what happened with you when you grieved that older version of you.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
was so beautiful. I had tears down my face. I'm like, this is so
We were both crying. Just both of you weren't, Angela and you weren't there, but sending Lisa voice messages of crying about grieving this old person, and we were both crying together about the grief. But it's like part of the process, right? It's an amazing journey.
you have to
I
let
mean,
yourself go.
what have each of you, like anybody else, like have you found that? Like, what are the things that came up for you in stepping out of your cage? Fear, grief. What else was there? Like I'm dying to know.
Angelina, you want to start?
You go. I feel like this is
Oh
all you.
no. Okay. Only because it happened like what, last week, a week and a half ago, maybe two.
Look at all
Very
of us.
least.
The year of the snake shed, baby.
Man, the year of the snake. So to start off the year of the snake, the very first time I had ever held a snake was actually in all of my profile picture. So the picture that you see, the picture that you see on my profile of me holding the snake, her name is Ginny. She was such a joy. And when she wrapped her arms around me when she wrapped around me, I felt like a little hug. And I was like, oh my gosh, I need snakes now. I love them. They are mine. That's my spirit animal. What was I doing with my life? But all of that last year was monumental in my change, in my growth. And it was because, one, I got out of my own way. Two, I aligned with such amazing women like yourselves that helped me to step into the next version of myself. And each day I didn't try. We're trying to avoid saying I tried. I did. I did help other women step out of the safety that they had grown to love, right? Because that safety was no longer holding them. Just like you were saying, Lisa, it happens so often where safety is what is comfortable, and safety is the cage that we know is going to help us survive, is going to help us push to the next level, is going to, or we think it does, and is going to keep us in a smaller cage, right? And we don't want to be in a cage anymore. We want to expand, we want to grow, we want to help others, we want to share our voice, our story. When last week arrived, or the last week of the year of the snake arrived, I was so heavy emotionally and spiritually. I was so heavy. And I was like, I have to just relax. I've got to take all of this and I've got to just let it go. And I didn't discover my spirituality until my soul sister died in 2021. And she passed away in my house from an autoimmune disease. When that happened, it was like my whole world just shattered. And that was what started my spirituality journey. So fast forward to, a couple of weeks ago, I was like, okay, I can do this. I can keep pushing. But again, I talked to Lisa as well. I talked to all of you, and I was like, I feel Lisa and Lou, and because on my screen, Lou's over here, Lisa's over here. So I talked to the L's. That's what I talked to the L's. Okay. And then I talked to Angelina, and then I was like, I don't know what I'm doing with all of this. Like, I just need all of this to just like shed off of me. And I just remember all of you, we were all talking about how we just needed to sit in the moment, and we needed to breathe and sit with it and grieve that version of ourselves that we can't take forward. And I did that. And I remember meditating and I remember loving on myself through it, but I was still crying. I was still heavy because that's still a version of us that we cherished, that we loved, that we walked through with, and that's important. And so grieving that is still an important factor in moving forward. Absolutely. Absolutely. What about you,
But also
Angelina?
gratitude, like
Mm.
for me
Oh,
personally,
that
what
too.
I
Yep.
felt is
Yeah.
gratitude that the person I was saw that that person couldn't be the same person anymore and needed to change. And thank you, past me, for doing that.
Mm,
And thank you also for sacrificing yourself and knowing that you couldn't live anymore to let me go on
Mm-hmm.
as the person I am now. And that was a
that's
really
absolutely
profound
right.
feeling, of
Yeah.
gratitude to that person, right? To know, okay, that doesn't serve me anymore, as Angelina so beautifully put it. This doesn't serve me. This is not who I am. And so grateful that that person recognized that to let me become who I am now. What a wonderful space to be in, right?
That is very
Absolutely.
beautiful and powerful. I always say to people, there's so much power in reframing and to actually shift that mindset, exactly like you said, Lou and Angel. Something can be seen so negatively, and every thought has energetics attached to it, heaviness or that sense of fear, right? Self judgment or self criticism, how I always self reflect. But when you can reframe it and go, wow, thank you for that challenge in life because it made me stronger. Thank you, Spirit, for giving me the ability to have the voice to speak amongst, these individuals that may not have the strength, or be that individual, that beacon that represents hope for them. I think for me, I see my sometimes challenges in shedding, not necessarily as grieving, but first just allowing myself to, once again, coming back to that self-awareness, recognizing early in my career as well that I wasn't wired the same in terms of my aspirations, if that makes sense. I tend to love to build, to create, to support, people become empowered and then move on to something new and do that for other people. I remember when I worked in an operating company and I was managing and supporting my team, I was always dumbfounded because they'd be like, Angelina, you're going to make yourself redundant, because I wanted to teach them, to guide them. And I was like, I want you to take this seat because my intention isn't to sit here that long. My belief and my passion is to truly help create this ripple effect, and my legacy is to have this change that lasts well beyond me in any organization or in any interaction. And so my challenge in terms of grieving, in a sense, was sitting sometimes and comparing myself to others too often. Why do I not feel content to be in this position or remain as I am, who I am? I always felt this like scratching and this desire to go, nope, this isn't for you. Like you've done what you needed to do in this space. And now that calling within you, like Lisa said, when you believe in that spiritual side of that awakening, so to speak, that we're all aligned with how we think, feel, and then what we do in life, then you truly have the ability to see things differently, have a different perspective. And so once I came to more of that understanding of how I like to operate, to influence, and to change, is to really understand that we don't have to compare ourselves to others, whether it be their success, whether it be the way that they tend to have wanted to thrive to achieve success. Success looks different for all of us. And so when I became comfortable with that, my, I guess, hardness in terms of, self-judgment was what I had to let go. That questioning, that, sitting here going, well, why aren't I, more like others that feel content in this way of being? Let me let go of so much. And as Lou said, then have so much gratitude for having this hunger in me to want this ripple effect that I, desire in terms of really creating empowered people that can understand that. And it's a theme that we've all been saying, right? Each and every one of us have the ability to choose differently in life. No matter what the story anyone has ever told you, the limitations, whether it's you're a woman and you should be doing this, or you've gone into an environment like you, Angel, where it's, war torn, it's challenges. Someone may tell you many times in life what your outcome will be. And I've seen it very often, not only myself in the male dominated environments, but with people I've mentored. You will only amount to this, or this is your future. Well, who said that you had the ability to be the fortune teller, right? I'm pretty sure that I have the ability to be my creator. I narrate my own story. And I think that when people truly understand, and my fundamental belief is we're all equal as human beings, so that when people sit there and compare to others, you have the ability to create your own future. The only limitation is within ourselves. That limiting belief, that energy of either I'm not good enough or I can't, I'm sorry to say, but I call bullshit, right? When we take that off,
We just stop.
when we take that off, we truly become unstoppable, and we allow others to realize. When we talked about cages, right? I don't believe it's just one. There's ourselves, there's the organizations, there's society, there's all of these things. And when you all talked about, give me goosebumps, right? When we talk about the shedding, I think, and grieving, it's because we break through one cage to find another one, to find another one, to find another 100%. One. So I truly believe it's this lifelong journey. And I always say to people, I'm a lifelong learner. Whenever I meet people, I want to have curiosity to seek to understand without judgment, because there are these sometimes unwritten rules we talked about, or these invincible cages, that we need to have these opportunities to have these beautiful heart-led conversations to be able to allow ourselves to see things differently and have a different perspective, where we're not then caged in and we don't feel that, life is harder than it needs to be for many people. It's how do I reset my self-worth, my self-value, change that story, that pattern, that belief, and boom, just go as hard as you 100%. Can. Whether it's like you, Lou, at 30, be a CEO. Some people might be like, how the hell is that even possible? Set a goal, set that intention, truly believe in it, and your energetics and the universe will truly start playing that out for you. So I always say to people, when you feel uncomfortable, lean into that. That is where your growth happens. I want you to dream bigger than even possible, where it scares you, and that's the direction you take.
And then be prepared to get to the goal and realize, maybe this wasn't what I wanted, and this is actually what I want. I know, Lisa, you're burning to say something on this. I can tell.
Yeah.
Tell us what you're burning. What's your burning desire?
I just wanted to say on top of what Angelina said, and I love that, because we have choice points. Every decision, every thought, every emotion is a choice point. And when we decide, we get to decide at that choice point if we're going to bring in an old belief, an old feeling, an old whatever, old way of being, a generational blah, 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 to which way we're going to go. And at those choice points, when we really, truly surrender and allow the true voice of us to come through, everything changes. And the biggest work I do with people, and the first part of that I work with them, is that we always take them into their little girl, no matter what. I'm telling you, no matter what you're effing moving through, no matter what's happening within your world, it always comes down initially to your little girl. And that's the biggest thing that we grieve, is that version of us, because she never got to fully be, for most people, who she wanted to be. She got squashed, she got hurt, she got pushed down. And so we went from being this beautiful living little girl who was vibrant and excited and just wanted to experience it all, to constantly being putting those different cages on us, externally and internally. And so when we allow her to start to heal and to be heard and to be seen, then our whole freaking world shifts, because that gives us the permission slip to be big, to grow big, to do big, to allow big. Because most of the time, it's that little girl that's keeping us mostly in that cage, because she's
trying to keep us safe. Trying to keep us safe. She's trying to keep us safe. And all you have to say is, I got this. You're protected. I've got you.
Full surrender. Letting Go is a really good book if you haven't read it. It really...
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
Look, I got it right here.
And here's one I prepared earlier.
Nice.
You don't like it much. It's a brilliant book. And it's one of the biggest things that we can actually unleash ourselves from the cage. And the external matrix and the internal matrix. I could just keep going, but I'm not, because I know that we've got time and these women are amazing and I'm loving this conversation. So, I just wanted to really, really say that, because if you're not evolving, you're dying.
Powerful words, Lisa, and I couldn't agree with you more. It's interesting. A lot of conversations I have, people kind of look at me strangely in the environments I'm in, because I fundamentally agree. I might be going into a meeting talking about risk management, but it's always then tied back to exactly that. Those belief systems when we were younger actually follow through as a ripple effect as we get older. So I 100% agree with you. The value is starting at that awareness point. What did I do as a kid to want to seek security, safety, love, affection, recognition. Because what's amazing is you realize even as an adult, you do those same patterns, right? Were you pleasing all the time? Were you the quiet one? Were you the helper? And so that gives you a great deal of awareness in terms of how you're showing up as you progress into your adult stage, and what you can do to pivot at times.
And that's why it gets sticky, because you get out of alignment with who you truly are and you can't live in that space anymore. Angel, Lou,
You can't.
come on.
Well, I actually had a question for Angel because, you know, and in all of these discussions, right, I'm super fascinated because, like I said earlier, we all work in completely different spaces, but we've all been on this journey in completely different ways. But I'm interested to know, like, how does this shape the work that you do? I know how it shapes my work, but I want to hear from each of you. Angel, I'm starting with you. How does this shape the work that you do?
So there's it's a lot. It's a lot. It's a lot to. There's a lot to unpack there, Lou. No, I'm kidding.
Let's give it the time.
So when I first started figuring out that I needed to get out of my way, I needed to get out of my own way, it was like another ripple effect, right? We were just talking about that. So once I got out of my own way, then I started having clients get out of their way, and they would come to me and they would say, okay, I want to change what I'm perceived, or how I'm perceived online. So for those who don't know, the easiest way that I had a client recently tell me this, and so now I'm sticking with it, but I am an identity coach with a vehicle through branding. That's
so true.
Because if you think about when the essence of what I do, I create brand ecosystems, but somatically. So it's not just about pretty colors. It's not just about pretty fonts. It's not, okay, well, I want to put a pretty picture on my website. It's about the emotional pull, not just from you, but also from your clients, from your audience that you want to have delivered through a screen. And so it's the emotional pull that a lot of people don't realize when they are sitting in front of their own website, they're sitting in front of their own brand ecosystem. They're going, this doesn't align with me anymore. This isn't me. This feels, there's something about it, right? I always tell people, if you have a tickle on the back of your ear, or you have a tickle on your shoulder or something when you're looking at your brand, then we need to have a conversation, because what's happening is there's something in your body that does not align or is not happy with what's happening on your screen with your brand ecosystem. So we will go through a journey. I go through journeys with my clients, and we talk about, okay, well, what is the first thing that comes up when we talk about like identity, when we talk about visibility, when we talk about like, if you're a brand new author and you're having a brand new website built, and they're like, okay, well, I'm not this person anymore. Now I'm just an author. Okay, well, what's the difference here? What do you want people to feel when they look at you, when they look at your website? Well, I want people to feel connected. I want them to know that I'm human too, that I'm part of their story. Okay, well, then we need to show people that, and we need to really delve into where in your body this is no longer feeling safe, because that's what it comes down to. You're not feeling safe anymore with the current systems that you have set up through your branding and through your brand ecosystem. So we delve through, I wouldn't say we go straight to the little girl, Lisa, but we delve into the specifics of what doesn't feel right. So if they have tension, if they have a reservation, if they're like, if they hesitate at any point in time, I always tell people, and this is thankfully because of you now, Lisa, I now say this, if it is not a fuck yes, then it is a no. Like I literally tell that to my clients now. I'm like, okay, I'm going to present this to you. We're going to talk about how it feels in your body. And if it isn't a fuck yes, then we're changing it. And I have so many people that are like, oh, wow, you get me, Angel. Like, you pulled the ball of yarn from my head and was able to put that into visuals. And I'm like, yeah, I do that through my spirit system. I do that through my spirit team, through my intuition. That's what I do. And it is so different than all the other corporate branding. That's why I always say fuck performative branding. I always say that because I'm not about performance. I don't want people performing. And just like all of us, the four of us, we don't want people performing, because that performance gets old and it burns in, and it comes to burnout, and it turns into more of the ick, and it makes us slow down, and we're trying to escape that cage. We're not trying to stay in it.
Mm. What about you,
I've got a
Leisa?
tangent. Whew.
I'm glad. That's why I asked, because I know, and I know all of you have this. So I want to know Lisa's, because I hate that we have a time limit on this, because I love that I can talk to you about all of these things, and I could talk to you for hours. But Leisa, like, what brought you to this work? You know, how do you integrate this, and how does this shape your work?
Yeah. I mean, what brought me to this work was a massive series of events with basically me ending up in Bali, being told that what the hell was I doing? I sold up everything and moved with a suitcase when I was 48 with my now husband, and everybody thought I was absolutely crazy because that's what young people do. And then I just started just surrendering with the flow and going where I was told to go and just allowing. And I think my work encapsulates my whole life, to be honest with you. You know, the addiction, the sexual abuse, because trauma is just an lived experience that's sitting in your body. So then I went into really trying to understand why people are real smart. We're all friggin' so smart. Why addiction? Why this? Why this? And, you know, they went deep into the mindset, and then I went into the self-love, and then I went into really just understanding what shapes us, how we are. And every time I evolve in my own personal world, I call this the $1 million inner pathway, because when this is sparkly and shiny, everything else is to create externally, because we are, as Angelina said, we are the creators. We are 100% the creator. We are working with the co-creator, which is God, universe, source, whatever you believe in. But we've got the whole matrix inside of us. So when we're all squeaky clean in here, we can then, the frequency, energy, co-create. So the work I do is getting people to self-trust, to really trust themselves, to allow themselves to be in a space to be able to hold what's coming. And I notice that there's so many other aspects to it, but I know we're on a time limit, but I know that when I do the work, I know I'm a way shower, because then all of a sudden the woman, they move with me. And it's so beautiful to witness. And it's the energy. It's the absolute energy. So when I clear, they clear. When I'm in shit, they're in shit. When we're moving through stuff, we're moving stuff. Because in essence, we're all one anyway. So I think for me, what shapes my work is me doing the work. If I'm not doing the work, then they're not going to grow. So it's almost like a personal thing that I want to constantly be making myself a better person, and not in the wanky way, in the real, like getting into the nitty gritty and seeing what the F's going on within me. I just want to see it. Like something comes up and I'm like, oh, goody, something I can work on. Right, let's have a look. What's this? And seeing all the threads and going up into, I call it my office, multidimensional office, and going into my la land and really understanding it. And so for me, what I bring to my clients is realism, truth, no bullshit. I'm exactly like you. We're all so the same. It's just brilliant how we're just the same versions of each other in different skins. And it's taking the radical responsibility and going, yeah, okay, let's go. And then they start to do it. So they start trusting themselves. So they start understanding. The biggest thing at the moment for people is being seen. It's a really big thing at the moment, is that next level, they contract. And so I then go, okay, is there a next level of me that needs to contract? Oh, there is. I'm going to go work on that. And then I expand. They do the work, they expand work. You know what I mean? So my work's been a real, like I was in the corporate industry. I've done all that sort of stuff. I was the Qantas marketing manager and worked with a whole lot of women, which I've got to tell you, and I don't mean this in any disrespect, women, but I tell you what, working with women, good freaking Nora. Are we a lot? Men are so much easier, apart from when they pull their pants down, Angela. So for me, it's me. The biggest bit of work for me is working on me, is evolving, is making myself a better person, is showing up in my love and everywhere, every facet of my house, house, as I call it. So, and my health, and my body. Oof, the body.
It resonates.
A whole nother podcast.
So it resonates. What about you, Angelina? How does this transform, or how does this shape your work?
It's an interesting one, because we're all so similar. I agree, Leisa. For me, I have just been on a quest, and it has been a reflection of my life journey. So having actually been exposed to those environments, whether it be in a corporate office, building systems, or working on a drill rig or on a construction site, actually putting myself in the positions of those individuals in these environments that are doing it tough, to understand from the human perspective, why are we being challenged? Why are there so many fatalities, so many suicides, so much hardship when it comes to, these environments where we genuinely, I do anyway, love what I do. And yes, there are complexities and there's hardship, but why is it that it's become so hard? So I went on this, pursuit to really discover it, from embodying it, exactly like Leisa was saying, right? Living it, questioning it. I'm a firm believer of being curious to uncover, this doesn't seem or feel right, or walking into environments. And I love to say, just like Leisa said, right? People would say I'm a bit of a truth teller because I'm not very diplomatic, and I kind of call it as it is. And I'll be saying things where people are like, we wanted to say that for so long, but we didn't, we thought we'd get fired. So for me, this desire to really live it, to have shared it from my own personal experience and my curiosity to find out how to do things differently, which is what I'm all about, right? Identifying how we can think, feel, and act differently and lead differently so we get a better outcome. And so my journey has been one that's been through the tough times, through living it, through experience it, through learning it from the good, the bad, the ugly, and discovering it from a human perspective. How do we disrupt organizational structures, individual systems, team systems, and actually realign them back to our truth, back to the essence of how we as human beings are meant to work together, to collaborate as one unity, as an empowered team, rather than thinking that it's in isolation and it's me against the world. And so I have been loving this journey, sharing my truths, but doing it in ways which I think is powerful, because by actually challenging people's beliefs and challenging their self-awareness really opens the door to their pathway to discover themselves in a different way, seeing how they can do things differently, choose differently, as we mentioned, to have a more empowered outcome. So I am just thrilled for all of the journeys that we have all taken, but also all what's to come.
So I resonate with all of those, everything that you have all just said. Like, I'm writing down notes because you all say these gems that are yes, that's also me, And one of the things that I loved that you said, Angel, was get out of your own way. And I think that's where my work and what I bring to my work, because when I got out of my own way in my leadership, I started my own business consulting practice that I've been doing for 10 years. And then I've started a second business, and I live and breathe like you, Leisa. I do the work on myself so that I'm helping people do the work. And I am also leading businesses. I am also founding businesses. I have also been in leadership roles where I thought I had to be something and then found that I didn't have to. And I'd say it's this thing. It's I had this aha moment, this, this light shone down from heaven moment. And I just, my whole purpose in life now is to help others have that same shining down light moment, but at the same time while I'm still doing the work myself. So I'm not sitting here as a coach or a leader who hasn't done the work or doesn't do the work and telling you how to do it. I'm doing it alongside you. And the challenges that you have come up, I've either had them myself or I'm going through them at the moment. And I love what you say, Angelina. It's you don't have to do things in isolation. That's the work that I do, is I teach people how to regulate so they can find themselves truly inside and trust that person inside them and listen to their gut, listen to their intuition, whatever you want to call it. And at the same time, make clear decisions and trust that that is the right decision for me, because that's resilience to me. It's not being tough, bouncing back. I hate those words. I know that those are definitions out there, but it isn't that. It's really about how do I move myself through this pressure that we all feel every single day and still come back to myself in a regulated, calm way. So, that's the work that I love doing.
I love that. Yeah. And if I can just add, I hear the similarity with all of us in terms of our passion, our drive, and our point of difference, which is a very powerful one, is that we have all lived it. I see a number of people sometimes be challenged when they only have technical understanding. They've learned things from just a book, not necessarily living and experiencing it. So I really wanted to give recognition to the fact that all of us share that unique, beautiful point of difference where we hold both the understanding, the theory components, but our life experience where we've lived it and we can resonate. So thank you for that share.
100%.
Oh,
Angel, did
well,
you want to wrap us up?
I did. I know that we're on a time crunch, so I'm like, oh, let me just hop in real quick so that we can wrap up. If this conversation resonated, don't let it end here. Join us at the Women Thrive Summit, March 16th through 20th, where all of these conversations can continue live inside a powerful community of women. You can learn more at womenthrivesummit.com. Lou, I'd love to know, can you let the people know when you are going to be speaking?
Sure. So I am first up out of almost 50 incredible women, and no pressure, Lou. First up out of 50 out of the lineup of all of these women. So you won't miss me if you've registered for the event. Just join me on the first day, the first one or the first cab off the rank. It's if you're in Western Australia at 6 p.m.
Wonderful, wonderful. Angelina, when are you speaking?
I am on the 19th of March, 7 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time.
Wonderful, wonderful. And Lisa, what about you?
And a sexy taxi off the rank you are, Lou, can I just say? I am on Friday, on the last day, Unleash the Warrior Within, of course. And I am first off the rank. So I'll be building the shit out of the energy in that room for the other powerful ladies that are coming in after me, same as what we were doing. And I'm, I think it's 9 a.m. UK or 7 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time, wherever you are in this world.
Wonderful, wonderful. And I am going to also be on Friday, right after, well, not right after, but on Friday after Lisa, and it'll be at 12 p.m. Mountain Standard Time and 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So thank you so much, ladies. It was a pleasure, and it's always
Such
amazing.
a pleasure.
Yes.
I love it. I love how we start the summit. We're in the middle of the summit and we're at the end. So you're going to love the summit if you join all four of us. It's going to be a blast. Thank you so much, ladies, for joining me today. I've had so much fun talking to you. I'm always inspired talking to all of you, and I can't wait to hear all of you speak. You've all been amazing. So thank you, and see you at the summit, everyone.
Love you guys.
Thank you. Bye.